This is Marion Bunel, and you are listening to the Will Talk podcast, coming to you live from stage 5 of Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift from Chasseneuil-du-Poitou Futuroscope to Guéret.
Hello and welcome back to the Will Talk podcast. My name is Matt Neef. Thanks so much for joining us. And a big thank you to Marion Brunel who brought us into today's episode. Unfortunately, Marion crashed today and ended up looking pretty sore, crossing the line about 20 minutes down on the rest of the bunch. So hope she's pulled up okay. I'm here tonight, as always, with Georgie Howe. Georgie, hello.
Hey, Matt, are you sick of me yet?
No, we're doing well. We're 5 days into the race and we haven't killed each other yet, so I think we're doing pretty well.
Yeah, there hasn't been any beef over music yet, although we did find some similar taste today.
Yeah, that's one of the joys of driving long kilometres through the French countryside is getting to listen to lots of music. We've got a big show for you again tonight. Holy moly, what a stage. Lots went on, plenty to talk about. But before we get to that, Georgie, do you want to set the scene for us? Where are we tonight?
We are in Guret, and Matt and I have once again found another Asian restaurant for dinner tonight. We are both tucking into a bowl of ramen. I actually didn't think I'd find this much Asian food when I came to France, in the middle of France, so I'm stoked about it. It's actually a very temperate day. It wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. We did have to clamber through a goat track to get to the buses, but it was a day full of adventure and excitement. Should we get into the racing?
Yeah, there is plenty to talk about. There's also a bit to talk about as well in the off-mic segment at the end of the episode. If you're not familiar, off-mic is a segment of the show that's available only to our very special members. If you aren't a member of Escape Collective, this is a great time to join. We've got a special promo running right now, and for just a few more hours after this podcast comes out, we're offering 25% off an annual membership. That gets you access to off-mic that you're about to hear later on if you're a member. Gets you access to all of our great content over at escapecollective.com. And it just supports the work that we're doing here on the ground and also throughout the rest of the year. So if you want to support us, if you want to become a member, we'd greatly appreciate it. You can find all the information at escapecollective.com/pod. And a bit of a spicy one tonight to talk about with some of the beef that's happening between managers at the Tour de France Femmes this year. Very, very exciting. All right, let's get stuck in. Georgie, you want to give us a recap of what happened today on stage 5?
Well, talking about beef, I'll put down my beef ramen and we'll get stuck into this race recap, and you can eat your chicken ramen.
Very good. I should say I'm much happier eating ramen 2 nights in a row than I am eating McDonald's 2 nights in a row early in the race.
Yeah, we've stepped it up. Only up from here. So today was the longest stage, not 265. We are not the men's peloton. 165 kilometers. We started in Futuroscope and we've ended in Guret. And it was an aggressive race from the start from all reports. So we started with a DNS from Staknak Soika. She did not start today, so best wishes for her, but yet another rider down. And in the neutral, we saw Kristen Faulkner, who has had an absolute shock of a race. She unfortunately crashed and later would abandon the race completely. So she stepped off her bike. The race was very aggressive from the start, and as comes with aggression comes risk. At 131 k's to go, Weebus came down with a bunch of 10 riders, and it was after that a break was then formed. We had a break of 5 with Alison Jackson of EF Education Oatly, Brodie Chapman of UAE Team ADQ, Francesca Burrell of Picnic Postinel, Anique Dijkstra of Volker Wessels, and Catalina Soto of Laboral. So those 5 were working very hard together, as it was a really fast day, tailwind all day. And at 43 k's to go, the gap was down to 2 minutes and 12 seconds, with Canyon, FDJ, Movistar, and Phoenix de Koenig leading the chase from behind. We had an intermediate sprint at 37 k's to go. We had the 2 best friends of Weebus and Marina Vos battling it out for points, with Weebus winning the sprint there. And after that, the climbing started to begin. Volker Wessels with Dijkstra dropped out of the leading group up that climb, and Soto soon joined her. And it was then that the attacks really started to go. So we had two Cat 3s and two Cat 4s and a Cat 3 today. And it was on the second Cat 4 that things started to really light up. Brodie Chapman attacked the breakaway and went away solo. And it was after that we had a heap of attacking happening from about 25 Ks to go in the race. And then coming to the last climb of the day, it was a Cat 3. Niamh Fisher-Black of UAE Team ADQ was leading up the QOM, and she attacked very, very aggressively with about 2.8 Ks to the top. She was then caught, and then Canyon started to pace quite fast with Diaries actually coming to the front and doing some solid work up the climb. Heading up to the top, we had a bonification sprint right before the QOM, and it was Kim LaCourte who attacked extremely aggressively to take those bonus points ahead of Pauline Ferrand-Perot and Cassie Niamh-Fisher-Black. Demi Vollering was there as well as Sarah Gigante, who actually then came to the front and started to pace the remaining of the climb for the likes of Kim LaCourte. Cedrine Cabal was dropped from that group as we thought she'd be featured in the stage, but she was off the back. And Gigante continued to set that blistering pace, which we'll get into a bit later. Anna van der Breggen, using her experience, came through to lead down the descent as it was going to be a technical one and to set the pace and to take her own line. So over the top, we saw Anna van der Breggen, Cassia Niamh-Fisher-Black, Kim LaCourte, Demi Vollering, Pauline Ferrand-Perot and Paulina Royekers go over the top together with a small gap back to Sarah Gigante. And on the descent, Cassia Niamh-Fisher-Black was pushing really hard. Together at the end, the group sat up a bit. Gigante was able to come back, and she went straight to the front and did like a monster pull pretty much from 2Ks to go all the way to 740 meters to go in the race. And that was when Anna van der Breggen decided she wanted to send it up the left side and Sarah nearly barriered the former world champion, which is, disrespectful, Sarah. I know you'll listen to this. But no, all jokes aside, Anna tried to have an early attack at about 740 meters to go. LaCourte responded. The group paused again, but they needed to keep the pace on with the chasing group only 30 seconds behind. LaCourte led it through the final chicane. They set up again, and Cassia Niamh-Fisher-Black, as is on brand with her, opened up first with 250 metres to go, and the sprint was opened up. LaCourte just sent it straight down the middle and took the win, almost celebrating too early with Demi Vollering second and Anna van der Breggen in third.
Very nicely done. There was a lot to get through, and you did that very succinctly, so well done. Lots to unpack in there. Lots for us to go through. Why don't we go back a bit and talk about the crashes that happened today, because there were quite a few of them. We saw a bunch of riders leave the race today as a result of crashes. You mentioned Kristen Faulkner there, but there are a total of 8 DNFs today, actually. Lisa Balsamo was out. Katrina Allerud was out. A total of 8 riders there. And the medical report today, doesn't make for great reading, to be perfectly honest. Lots of riders out with scrapes and cuts and all this kind of stuff. Katrina Allerud particularly worrying, off to hospital with concussion and looks like some sort of facial trauma as well. So hopefully she's okay. As you said, Georgie, it was a very fast start out there.
Yeah, it was. I caught up with a few riders at the finish, and I had a chat with the eventual winner, Kim LaCourte's teammate, Gladys van der Hulst Wild, and she was her job was to get into the break early, but it was just so aggressive and so fast that everyone was fighting for it, and like speeds were so high that she said it was absolute madness. She tried her darndest, but she couldn't get in there. But she's like, it was absolutely crazy. It seems like every day the bunch is getting crazier and crazier. You
talked about the breakaway there and your little breakdown of the stage, and Brodie Chapman was one of the riders that got up the road. She was actually a late inclusion in that break. She came across quite late, I think, in the piece. I think the last rider maybe to join that main breakaway. Let's talk a bit about her ride, because she's a rider that, I guess looking for some joy for UAE out of this tour. They obviously lost Lisa Longoborghini early in the race. They did have Lara Gillespie taking third yesterday, but this was a stage that looked like it was going to go to a breakaway, and Brodie obviously sensed that, and she got herself nicely up into the break, and then a lovely attack towards the end there.
Yeah, she actually caught up with Broads at the end of the race today, and look, she's buggered, but she's really excited for tomorrow. I think she's got the fire in the belly to keep having a crack at the breakaway. UAE have had a shocker of a tour when it comes to sickness and illness, so I was actually thoroughly impressed to see the amount of riders they had up there today with Brodie and also Squibin in the leading group. So it was, I think they've got, they've still got the fire in their belly. And it was clear from chatting with Brodie that she was really happy with her ride today. And she doesn't have family here due to the late call up of this race. Usually when you're at the Tour de France, you kind of have family and friends come and watch you. And poor Brodie, she doesn't have anyone. So I managed to give her a big hug at the end of the race, show a bit of support there. But I'm sure she'll feature in the coming days. They're actually more suited to her than today.
In a case of great planning from our wonderful leader, Abby Mickey, we actually have an audio diary from Brodie Chapman today. So let's have a listen to that now. Let's listen to Brodie describing her day out in the breakaway.
So, stage 5. It was a long day today and a little bit more of an open race on paper because it started relatively flat but still kind of just rolling. So with the full tailwind, it was hard, and it took like 50 Ks or more for breakaways to go. Everyone was trying to get in the break. I was battling with all the accelerations. It was kind of like it's just all these sometimes standing starts, like going through a corner, you have to slow down heaps and stomp on the pedals to get back up again. And then there might be a crash or you have to hit the brakes. And it's just like these on-off efforts all day, which really, I suffered a lot there. So by the time I finally got to around the front, there was a breakaway up the road. So it is what it is. And then anyway, at some point not halfway through, somewhere in the middle of the race, they started kind of attacking again. And then I counted off an attack because I just happened to be there, and then had a little gap. So my teammates behind told me I had a gap. So then I think the break had like a minute and something at that point. So I was like, oh, well, can't go backwards now. So thought I would just try to bridge. So I put in a pretty deep effort there, and I knew there was some really strong riders in the front. Namely my friend Alison Jackson, also Australian, Chilean Soto Campos, and we had Francesca Barale, and I know she's a training partner of Elisa Longoborghini, so she's strong. And she actually was the first one up the road. Yeah, so anyway, we got actually a lot of time at some point, and, it's always touch and go. You're like, well, the result is kind of up to the peloton. Do they let the breakaway win? Do they want the stage win? And the gap started to come down quite quick when some teams went to the front. So I was hoping it would stay a bit out longer so that I could get to the climbs and then make my move. In the end, I ended up pushing the climbs just in order to push the gap out and hoped that maybe someone could bridge across to me. And then at some point, Maeva, my teammate, bridged across. And the whole time I knew we had Domi behind in the peloton really strong. So we were kind of letting her save for the late action. Maeva came across with Shirin Van Anrooy and a couple other really strong riders. So I was like, all right, just got to go deep here and see if she can launch something off this, which she did. But yeah, it all came back to kind of a GC group, very select group in the end. But we played the game. We tried our best. Our team is down to 4 riders now. So we'll just be taking our chances every day. And I imagine I'll feel pretty tired tomorrow, but my team has fed me up and gave me a good massage, all sorts of treatments, this and that. So now all I need to do is have a good sleep and try again tomorrow. So glad to be of entertainment. That's what it's all about.
We kind of glossed over it earlier when you were giving you a recap there, Georgie, but the that section between the second Cat 4 where Chapman attacked solo from the break and that decisive Cat 3 climb towards the end was absolute madness. And I know you were making your way to the mix zone.
Mate, I was scrambling. on the goat track.
Why don't you tell us about that? Why don't we peel back the curtain just for a moment and tell the listeners what it was like there in the last little bit of the stage?
Yeah, well, I was in the press gallery, putting my head down, being the good little neo-pro journalist that I am. And then my boss, my mentor, Matt Neef, sends me a photo of a goat track, and he's like, this is the way to where the press are going to watch the end of the stage. And I was like, oh, that's new. I don't know if this is normal or not. And he's like, this is not normal. He's like, you better get a move on. So look, I'm not very terribly good with directions. My parents gave me a TomTom as an ironic gift once, but I did my best, and I rolled my ankle yesterday due to a trail that Lauren Rowney sent me on. Don't worry, guys, I got physio treatment by my old team physio this morning, so it's all strapped up and good to go. But I was limping my way on this goat track trying to get there in time to watch the last 10K, and luckily I made it, but my goodness, the ASO didn't make it easy for me.
Sometimes the way these stages finish, they end up having the press centre and the finishers quite a long way away from one another. And often the access to get between them is a bit tricky. So today was one of those days. It was chaotic trying to get there in time to see what happened. And those last kilometres from, say, 25K to go to 10K to go was particularly chaotic with so many attacks going between the climbs. We knew the climbs would be decisive and we knew there'd be attacks there, but so many riders were trying their luck at trying to get across. You mentioned Maeve Squeebun, who was really good getting into a move. Silke Smulders as well. Dilxien Miamont and Shirin Van Anrooy as well. They all got up the road and joined Chapman on the approach to that final climb in what was a very promising move there. And while that move didn't last because, there was a lot of impetus in the chase behind, and obviously there were GC contenders that wanted to bring it all back together ahead of that final climb, it was great to see so many riders taking their chances after a couple of sprint stages. So, some wonderful aggressive racing to enjoy at the back end of the stage.
Yeah, and look, I was definitely sad to miss it, but I caught up with Shirin as I was meandering my way through the buses, and I had a quick chat with her. And Trek, if you read my piece this morning with Gradiana Marcus and Ellen Van Dijk, you'd see that Trek are having an attacking style with this race. They're looking for breakaways, looking for opportunities to get up the road. And today was one of Shirin's days, but don't worry, she's not done. She'll be looking to attack tomorrow in the coming days too. So, yeah, definitely look out for her.
All right, so let's talk about these last 10K. Squeebun's the last to be caught with about 9.5 Ks to go basically at the foot of that final Cat 3 climb. What happened from there?
Yeah, so Squeebun was caught, and then it was Apta Canyon that started to really pace the climb. And it was the first time really that I had seen Canyon this race take initiative when it comes to a chase to this extent. We saw Dygert in the sprint yesterday, but really this was the whole team lined up, and all day actually they were present. So Canyon really started to set a hard pace up the climb, making use of Dygert on the front there. And it was, everyone was like, okay, well, this is it. The Tour de France really starts here. We are going uphill, and we'll be going uphill for a fair while, and it'll start to get pretty steep. So Cassia Niamh looked extremely strong, I must say. She was comfortable. Similarly with Pauline. Kim LaCourte, Demi, they all looked great. I think Demi's recovery from her crash seems to be quite remarkable. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, possibly a little bit in the off mic as well. But the climbers really started to come out to play in this. And it was then when Gigante actually came in through to the front that from Cassia Niamh, that was when the pace really got hard and people really started to hurt. It wasn't so much when Demi attacked. It was actually when Gigante came to the front and really started to put the afterburners on that people started to really hurt, which is high praise.
That's right. Just to go back a little bit to Canyon SRAM, I think we should just highlight how good they were today in that lead up to that final climb for Niamh Fisher-Black. Obviously, Dygert put in that big pull as she's wont to do, and hurting everybody behind her when she does. But Ricardo Bauernfein was there doing a great ride.
Alice Towers,
Soraya Paladin as well. A very strong lead in, and really, I guess, encouraging for that team to see them riding so well together ahead of the much harder stages to come.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that team has had a fairly lackluster season, and they are the defending Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift champions. So, they can't shy away from responsibility here. So I think they've come to play.
Let's talk about the bonus sprint near the top of that climb. There are, I think, 3 stages in this year's race where they have bonus seconds available. So it's 6 seconds at the top for the winner, 4 seconds, and then 2 seconds for the first 3 across the line in those bonus sections. And they're often at top of climbs at a decisive point in the race. And we saw Kim LaCourte clearly wanted to go for that today. And in fact, she said in her post-race press conference that was the goal today, was being first over that, because that would ensure that, assuming that Wiebes and Vos were dropped, which they were on the climb, that she would then go into yellow.
Yeah, but I think she looked around and saw that they weren't there anyway. So I think she would have been absolutely fine to get to the finish without them. But what I did have a read of the transcript from that press conference, which Matt kindly got for me. But the next part of what Kim said in that was, the question was really around last year's Tour de France Femmes was separated by 4 seconds. Is bonus seconds something that they'll be chasing this week? And I think that's a fair consideration to make. So Kim looked around. Voss and Weavers were not there. Voss was chasing admirably, chasing hard, but I don't think she had to worry about them beating her to the line. So I think it possibly might be seconds just for the bank for the whole tour.
Just want to, I guess, call out Kim LaCourt, how impressive she's been, not only as a racer, obviously, and I guess going for this GC campaign that we maybe wouldn't have expected a few months ago, and handling herself so admirably in that way on the bike, but just the way she handles herself off the bike as well. We saw, when you get into the yellow jersey at the tour, it's an absolute circus. You get whisked away to do all kinds of interviews and various protocol and anti-doping testing, and part of that was getting put straight onto live TV as well as France TV. And just watching her up there, she just looks so calm, just so collected, and so well spoken. And we saw that as well in the press conference. She's just a super impressive operator. I know that's maybe a funny thing to point out, but that's not always a given. There are definitely riders that are better at telling stories and running us through their day than others. And I've just been super impressed by her as a rider, both on and off the bike.
Yeah, I think what struck me about Kim LaCourt was when we first met her at the press day before this race started, she was swarmed by press. Like swarmed in the mix zone. She was going I think she did about 20 interviews that day, but at no stage did she lose her patience. She kept her cool the whole way through. She's got the biggest race of her life coming up, and so the next day, and so she had all license to kind of call it and say, no, I'm done. But she gave everyone the time of day and gave a considered answer, even to myself. I reckon I was interview number 20, and she still gave me the patience and some really beautiful moments and even some jokes. I was thoroughly appreciative of her, and I think it's easy to work for a leader who does that, and also easy to work for a leader who acknowledges the work of those around them. And I see Kim LaCourt being a formidable GC rider because she'll have a formidable team around her who will want to work for her.
That's the perfect segue to talking about Sarah Gigante today. She was immense, and we heard from her a few weeks ago in a preview pod, I believe, about how she came and did what she called descending camp in preparation for these final stages of the tour. I think she said she did the final descent of today's stage a whole bunch of times in preparation.
And guess who gave the briefing for today's descent in the team meeting?
I'm guessing it was Sarah.
Yeah.
And look, it must have paid off, all that work that she did, because she was immense on the climb. She was there, part of that final selection of the day of 7 riders. She did get dropped a little bit on the descent. We know that she's not the most confident descender. It's something she's definitely working on, but she fought back, and just a really imperious performance from the Aussie. And we asked Kim LaCourt about that in her press conference, just to talk about how important Sarah was. And she was very, very appreciative of Sarah's work.
Yeah, and it's not just Kim. I spoke to Yolinda Hore, who's the sport director of AG Insurance Sudal at the team bus, and she had only high praise to say about Sarah. She said she's a consummate professional. She's gone away. She's recognized her areas that she needs to work on, and she's honed them. She knew she had to work on her descending. She bought her own descending coach and practiced in Girona with that descending coach. Then she knew that Tour de France was going to be an aim for her. So she and her mum in a van and Airbnbs just did all the recons of the Tour de France Femmes by themselves over and over and over again. So Sarah is dedicated. She knows her craft, and she knows what she needs to do to help her team win and also win herself. But I think from talking to all the riders actually at AG Insurance Sudal, I don't get the sense that any one of them is like, I'm doing this for me to win. It's like they're all taking responsibility as to their part of the whole, and that is a winning combination. And I think it's a cultural element that I don't think teams are really honouring that much yet.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think Kim LaCourt really summed it up today when we asked her in the press conference about how important Sarah was, and she just said simply, I wouldn't have been able to do what I did today without Sarah. not being able to take those bonus seconds most likely, and not being able to win the stage, because it was Sarah that helped keep it all together and keep that pace on and drive it through those final kilometres. So, yeah, big shout out to friend of the pod, Sarah Gigante. She was amazing today, and I suspect that she's going to have a big role to play in the stages ahead as well.
Yeah, I mean, I basically, my first question to Sarah was like, how's it feel doing a sprint lead out? And she said she's been calling herself a sprinter all week, so what am I talking about? And then the next question, actually, no, it wasn't so much a question. It was more of a statement from Sarah being like, I can't wait for Saturday. So I think Madeleine is on her cards.
Yeah, and it's going to be fascinating to see what the situation is at that point, because, of course, Lecourt's leading the GC now. And, the question is she still going to be in yellow by that point? Is she still going to be in the GC hunt by that point? Because, that's a really hard stage. That is the stage that's likely to decide this race overall. But there's a couple of hard stages between now and then, and there's no guarantee that she'll be there. And we kind of talked to her about that in the press conference about how far ahead she's looking. And as you might expect, she was talking about how it's a real day-by-day prospect. And I can understand that. I know it's a cliche and it's a bit frustrating as a reporter to get that answer, but also this is a new thing for her. She's a rider that's still so fresh, really, to the World Tour peloton, still finding her way, still finding what she's capable of. And now she's leading the biggest bike race on the calendar and really trying to work out what that's all about. So, the climbs weren't massive today, so we will still have to wait and see.
Can we stop downplaying climbs, please? Seems to be a theme on this pod.
It's true, but also you've got to climb the Madeleine on Saturday.
I do have to climb the Madeleine on Saturday.
I think when you get to that, you would be wishing you'd climb today's climbs instead.
That's true. I'm just going to be riding on vibes up there, and I might be cutting the stage a little bit short.
Yeah, so cheating. Let's talk more about the GC in a second, but before we get there, let's throw to an audio diary now from Liv AlUla Jayco's climber, Ella Wyllie.
Today was a pretty long stage. I think it was like 170 something in the end with the neutral, and more fireworks towards the end. I think just a bit more fatigue in the legs. Silke did a really good attack for us, and she got a gap up the road, just got caught, I think, coming into the final climb. But she did a really good job, and then Marty was up there for us. I was just behind. I think it just came down to legs today on that final part, and it was pretty tough.
All right, so back to the GC, and you touched on it before, Georgie. Demi Vollering, how impressive was she, given where she was 2 days ago, on the tarmac, a couple of kilometres from the finish line, having to be helped up off the ground by her teammates, looked in an absolute world of pain. 2 days later, she's not only hanging with the front group, she's actually sprinting to second and very, very nearly winning the stage as well.
Oh, she's a phoenix from the ashes, isn't she? And look, I think it is remarkable, and we'll get into some other reasons why I think that she has arisen to the point that she has in the off-mic segment. But I think at the very least, I think she just feels like she has the support around her what she needs to do what she needs to do, and people have faith in her. So I think last year when she was injured with SD Works, she completed the race, and that. To be in an environment like that and still compete and race as she did in the Tour de France is admirable and shows immense resilience. So she has that, and so you couple that resilience that she already has with an environment that supports her and is actually working for her. I imagine she will pick herself up, dust herself off, and go again. I'm not saying you should dust off a concussion, so I hope that it truly is healed. But she did. It was very nice to see her looking better today.
Yeah, I agree, and just physically as well. Just to highlight, we talked about this the other day, but just to highlight this, it looked very likely that she wouldn't start stage 4.
She looks so bad, mate. She looks so bad.
Yeah, it was kind of staggering out of the bus. Just looked like she was in a world of hurt, and she staggered back onto the bus, and there was those rumors going around that she wouldn't start the stage, and then she came to the mix zone to talk to the press and looked like she'd about to burst into tears at any moment. And then somehow gets through that stage. And then, of course, the big question is, well, how will she go when there's actually some climbs? And we got our answer today. You know, she looked amazing. She even had enough to go for a little surge there on that last climb. And yeah, it wasn't the most decisive move on that final climb, but just seeing her in a position where physically she was able to do that, awesome for her, but also awesome for the bike race.
Yeah, we were scared we were going to lose 3 GC contenders in 3 stages, weren't we? So, yeah, Marlon Rosa, Elisa Longbogini, and Demi Vollering, like that would open up the GC for not like hugely. But now we thankfully, and I hope every single one of them stays on the bike now. Thankfully, still have a real battle on our hands, and I'm excited to see, some boxing gloves come out in the coming days.
Actually, we're at 2 pieces about Vollering today. One this morning talking about how she was going and would she be able to recover, and then one this afternoon after the stage about how she did manage to go on the stage. But one of the things I wrote today is just fascinating seeing her at the finish line today, you know, warming down on the trainer with the press around her and fans around her, and she was smiling. I know that sounds like a small thing, but if you'd seen her the last 2 days and how miserable she was and how downcast she was, just seeing her smiling and joking with the Swannies and chatting to her teammates in an upbeat way, just a really good sign.
Yeah, I think having a lightness around yourself at the moment in stage 5, we're now officially over halfway, Matthew, of this tour. So it's I think it's easy to get down in the dumps. I mean, a lot of riders haven't had the tour that they've wanted. Look at Kristen Faulkner, for instance. But I think for Demi, she knows what's required of a tour. You don't get your way every single day. She had an absolute shocker on stage 3, but she's a mature bike racer. She picks herself up and she knows every day must be looked at in isolation. So today was today, and tomorrow will be a new day again.
Yeah, she said that she was feeling much better today, and you could see that obviously in the way that she performed, but her neck seems to be doing pretty well. She seems to be moving pretty freely, which is great to see. But as you say, the real test will be in the days to come. It gets much harder, as we'll get to a bit later on, I'm sure.
Yeah, 100%. We'll get into the preview for the next coming days in a minute. But I've got them in front of me on VeloViewer now, and if anyone calls these little climbs, I'm going to slap them. Looking across at you, Matt.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Just on GC, just to kind of give a bit of a snapshot of where things are at. Kim Lecourt's now in yellow again. She's 18 seconds ahead of Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, and that's, I guess, courtesy of those 6 bonus seconds at the bonification late in the stage, and also a 10-second time bonus at the finish. Vollering is third at 23 seconds behind Lecourt. You've got Nieuwedome Finney at another second behind Vollering. And then Anna van der Breggen, who looked great today as well.
So good.
3 seconds behind. And Vos back in 6th place. Let's talk about van der Breggen quickly, because we touched on it yesterday, but Danny Stam and Kopecky kind of talked about how maybe they would actually go for a GC ride with van der Breggen now. And look, based on how she went yesterday and how she went today, I would be thinking that she's a great chance of being competitive in that classification.
100%. She looked all class today. She looked like the Van der Breggen of old again, in comparison with her, with those around her. You know, so particularly on that descent, like her class, like she just stayed in, stuck with the lead group, and she knew that the technical descent was coming up, and like it was just her maturity to be able to then sprint and gas her way to the front of the climb, so that way she could lead across over and down the descent. Not necessarily to attack the descent, but just to simply choose her own line. I think we're seeing some class come through from her. I think she's working her way into this race. It was also good to see her get her sprint legs on. Not quite sure what she was trying to do at 740 meters to go. But
classic late attack, right?
But Gigante, I don't know if she did this intentionally, but she saw her coming and then barried Anna van der Breggen.
I think we're going to be talking about van der Breggen quite a bit in the stages to come, and I, for one, am fascinated to see how she goes in the big mountains.
Yeah, me too, but I would also just like to talk about her contemporary, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, for a minute, because when van der Breggen gassed it up the top of the climb, similarly when Kim Lecourt went for those bonus seconds, Pauline just was lacking that pop. She couldn't go with them.
She was lacking pop. And then similarly in the sprint for the line, she didn't quite have that punch. So we have questioned that. I mean, Lauren actually raised this point in previous days' pods that Pauline has lacked this pop. She saw it early on, and she's more of a grinder. I wonder when
when those explosive attacks come in the coming mountain stages, will Pauline be able to respond?
You don't need Pop, mate, if you're going to ride away from everyone on the Madeleine and win by 3 minutes.
Oh, but Pop is so much more fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, she's another one that's going to be fascinating to watch. So many storylines still to play out in this race. So many fascinating climbs to come, fascinating stages to come. I'm really excited to see how it all unfolds. Before we get to tomorrow's stage, let's quickly chat about the points classification, the green jersey. As Georgie touched on before, we've seen basically Wiebes and Vos be the only ones going for those points. They do their little tango every time there's an intermediate sprint, with Wiebes winning every single time. But the competition still is pretty close, I guess, thanks to Vos's stage win. But Wiebes on 208 points, Vos only 30 points behind on 178. So I would have to check the math on this, but I think it's still very possible for Vos to take that green jersey by the end of the race. She'll need to be getting up the road. The next two stages, the intermediate sprints, are before any climbing, so you'd imagine Wiebes will be the one that takes the points there, but the days after that, the sprints are after the first climbs. So that would be advantage Vos in that case, I think. So an interesting one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, for sure. I actually thought Vos was going to get over the top of this climb today.
She was so good. It was shades of last year on the stage that Cabell won, where she was it Cabell that won it? Or maybe Hekira, I can't remember which stage it was, but where she fought to second place. And that kind of tenacity is something that one of the many things that we love about Marianne Vos.
Yeah, and look, for her tenure in the peloton and for being able to perform that she does, and to continually come back and attack everything with the same aggression, it's the reason why she's a GOAT.
All right, let's talk about tomorrow's stage. Georgie, give us a lowdown.
Alrighty, folks. So tomorrow's stage, we are heading into the mountains. So we start in Clermont-Ferrand, which I'm just going to give you a bit of a history lesson. Was the start of the 2023 Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. So I was there racing it. And when I was there, my media manager, he pointed out, because we're both former academics, that the Gothic church in the centre of Clermont-Ferrand is actually made out of entirely black lava stone. So it's the black church of Clermont-Ferrand, and it is magnificent. If you ever get a chance to go through this town, definitely have a look at it. Its twin spires stack up to 96.1 metres tall. And it is just an example of neo-Gothic architecture. The foundations of the church were laid in the 5th century. So it has been around for a long, long, long time, and that is bang in the middle of where I love to nerd out in terms of history. So I cannot wait to get there tomorrow for the stage start. The riders, while I'm doing my classics thing, will be then riding. I think it's a total of 123 kilometers with about 2,400 meters of climbing, and they will be ending up in Ambert. The first climb of the day, or first, let's call it proper climb, a climb that's over 4 kilometers long. First climbing of this day starts at 67 Ks to go in the race, and that is 22.25 kilometers, climbing nearly 1,000 meters and averaging 4.3%. So it is not a little climb.
That's more than it says in the road book, right?
Yeah, so this is the road book. This is part of the categorized climb, but the climbing actually starts well before that. So the riders will be going uphill at 2%, 4%, 3%, 6%, just a really uncomfortable gradient for a long, long, long time. Then they have a very long descent off the top of that climb. That is 9 Ks, straight into another climb, and that is going to be 6.5 Ks at 5%. And then after that, it is a technical run-in, 10K descent into the final climb of the day, 5 Ks at 5%, and then it's false flat and descent into the finish line with a brief kicker at the last 400 meters are at 3% into the line. So I don't think we're going to see a sprint finish, so that last little bit shouldn't matter too much. I really think it's going to be the climber types coming out to play tomorrow. I think we'll see a similar finish to what we saw today.
Yeah, I think that's a great shout. A couple of things that stand out to me about the stage. First, about 2,500 meters of climbing, so not to be sneezed at for sure.
And it all comes within the back half of the stage.
Yep, great point. And there's also another bonification point as well in this stage, which comes, it looks like about 12 Ks from the finish at the top of a short unclassified climb. So I imagine there's going to be a battle for that point as well.
Yeah, 100%. Like that butterfication sprint is the perfect launch pad for someone to go for it and then attack, because you got a little descent off that, but then it is a false flat like plateau for a bit up the top there. So I think you want some company before you then descend. The descent into the finish is about 6k%, about -5%. So it'll be an absolute rapid run into the line. But if you can get away with maybe group of 2, group of 3 on that false flat, which you'll need numbers there, you can stay away and duke it out in a 2-up or a 3-up sprint.
Who's your pick for the stage?
Tomorrow's stage, I actually do think Kim LaCourte. I think these climbs, I'm not seeing any red on this profile, and I know she can handle the steep stuff as she won Liège. But yeah, I think this is a stage where she'll have Gigante there. I think she'll have Gigante until the end. So I firmly believe Kim LaCourte for tomorrow.
I'm not quite convinced. I would like to see it. I think she's been amazing, but I wonder how she's going to go on the longer climb that you mentioned there and then the repeated climbs later on. But I mean, we'll find out, and that's an exciting thing. But I'm going to pick Vollering for tomorrow's stage. I think just based on her trajectory and the fact there's a bit more climbing, I think she might be one to watch.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. And then we actually have like less climbing the day after, so which is probably more suited to LaCourte. But we'll go into the day after tomorrow. But yeah, I think it's. I never thought we'd have a Kim LaCourte Demi Vollering battle for the GC.
All right, why don't we wrap it up there for today's episode of the Wheel Talk podcast. For those of you that are subscribed, we'll be carrying on with the off-mic segment coming up shortly after this, where we're going to be talking more about Vollering and more about some polemic between her manager and manager of another team. If you're not a member, please consider signing up. We really do appreciate the support. It helps keep the lights on and keeps bringing us to bike races, which we enjoy doing, and we hope that you enjoy everything that we're creating here at the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. With that, we'll see you tomorrow.